Come let us check your vehicle out with a complimentary service check. Randy Marion Chevrolet Estates or Randy Marion Ford Lincoln. We'll check it out to make sure that car will start on these cold mornings and get you to where you need to be. Come see us today. Make sure you're tip-top ready to go. 2024 has started off cold. Let's make sure you are ready to go.
King of Price, RandyMarionStatesville.com.
Well, hello everyone. It is Monday. Welcome to the Scoreboard in a little bit of a different format here. If you're watching on any of our social channels, Facebook, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, WSICnews.com, you might notice that I'm actually sitting today. Well, that's because I'm not alone. I am joined by a guest, and we are going to sit here and talk a lot of NASCAR, because right now the Daytona 500 is live. And joining me for the Scoreboard today, host of the News Drive at 5, Patrick Reynolds in studio. How are you today?
I'm doing great, buddy. Good to be with you. This is fun. I'm looking forward to being on the Scoreboard for a while.
This is going to be fun. Now, we're not going to commentate. We're not going to play-by-play the race. But we are going to spend a majority of the Scoreboard today talking about the Daytona 500 as they are currently at break, but right around the halfway mark. And a quick recap of you for the first half of the race. Sunday rained out before noon. They made that decision fast. So today at 4:30, the 500 went live with Joey Logano leading everyone to the green flag. Michael McDowell. That's who it is. Michael McDowell on the outside front row.
I was wondering where you were going to because I was jumping to the first crash already. Sorry.
I was getting there because 4 laps after that, it seems, they were 3 wide, and for some reason, everyone's pushing and shoving with 195 laps to go, and it didn't end well as there was an accident involving Harrison Burton, Carson Hocevar, Jimmy Johnson, and unfortunately, Hocevar, Burton out of the Daytona 500 early. Jimmy Johnson sitting 3 laps down. That's a pretty disappointing start for Johnson.
Yeah, it is. So early in the race to be 3 laps down. However, he was very, very close on Thursday night during the qualifying races to not even making the 500. So he may have used up that golden horseshoe on Thursday night just to get in the race.
It was
today.
a last-second move coming out of 4, and the thing was J.J. Yaley had a run, and I guess he didn't realize the guy behind him had to pass him to make the 500, and Johnson just stayed in line. The draft towed him through, and he made the 500. But
He's not a 7-time champ by accident.
That's exactly right. So that was early in the race involving Jimmy Johnson, and then went green for quite a bit. We had some fuel strategy playing out. The front pack got kind of jumbled up, ended up with only 10 cars or so in the draft at the end of stage number 1. Chase Elliott coming home with the win on that one. Now, I know this is probably a big one for Elliott, considering the injury last year, missing a lot of the early part of the season, but got a long way to go as we just reached the halfway point here. Who was your pick again, Patrick, for the 500?
On Thursday, I picked Tyler Reddick to win the 500, and he did well on Thursday night to win one of the qualifying races, and he currently sits 5th as we work just past the halfway point in the Daytona 500, 101 down. 101 laps down, 99 laps to go. Reddick sits 5th. Todd Gilliland leads the 500.
Yeah, Todd Gilliland leading the 500. That's, I said in Friday, I don't know if you were able to catch it with the event that you were at, but spoke with Steve Post of MRN.
Good for you.
He said that he expects those Fords to be very competitive this year. And lo and behold, the top 2 cars leading the field, a couple of Fords.
And they're 1 and 2 right now, I believe.
They are 1 and 2.
I don't know what make Justin Haley is as he runs 3rd, but Todd Gilliland and Joey Logano, 2 Fords, currently pace the 500 at 1 and 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And I spoke about predictions for the 500 with Steve, and he said he thinks that the 12th car of Blaney is going to back up his championship with a 500 win. currently running, about 13th, 14th, right around there. Me, on the other hand, I went a little bit more bold. I said, we're going to see a first-time winner of the 500, two-time champion, though. Kyle Busch in the 8 car is who I picked, not only to win the 500, but also throughout the season. I think RCR is going to get them a championship this year with Kyle Busch taking them to glory.
That's not a bad pick at all. I actually thought of him. For my 500 win, I went with Kyle Busch to win a dual race on Thursday, which he did not. Was involved in a crash, but was out front, did lead his duel for a little while with RCR. And yes, I
led earlier in this race as well.
He led on Thursday. He has led during the 500. Running well now, currently in 10th spot, jockeying. They're in a pack, so he's shifting back and forth from 9th to 10th. A little shift there a little bit. Having a strong run here as 97 laps to go in the 500. Kyle Busch, not a bad pick at all, man. He's showing some muscle here.
Is there a bad pick in the 500? I mean, everybody's got a chance to win. As they say, the draft is the great equalizer.
Well, gosh, Austin Cindric has won this race. Austin Dillon has won this race.
Austin Dillon has wrecked somebody to win this race.
Todd Gilliland currently leads the race. So, yes, if you are, I think, on track, you can win this.
Trevor Bayne, in his second career start, won the 500. So, if you're in it, you can win it. And right now, everybody, it seems like, there's only about 5 cars so far that are out of this thing, but a long way to go. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, man, we had a whole weekend filled with sports, and all this is going to be is talk about the Daytona 500. Not quite. I do want to get to a little bit of news from around not only the high school area, but college basketball, as well as some pro sports over the weekend. The NHL had a pretty big event over the weekend, and the NBA had their All-Star weekend. So we will get to what we can, but the biggest news story as we are live here on the scoreboard, the Daytona 500 is just passing halfway. Before we get to our first break of the day, I want to at least touch on the high school sports scene as we do every single day here on the scoreboard. We are done with the regular season. Now, everybody still gets to play at least one more game in the area. That's because we are now in conference tournament time. Still jockeying to get your seeding correct for the actual playoffs coming up a little bit later. But this week, we will have tournaments for your conference. And everybody in the area is going to be playing tonight. We have Mooresville taking on A.L. Brown. Lake Norman is the only team that isn't playing. They won their conference, and there's an odd number of teams, so they actually do not have to play tonight. They're still waiting to find out who their opponent is going to be. Statesville High School takes on St. Stephen's. North Iredell takes on East Lincoln. West Iredell has a game against Hickory as they finished last in 3A. They have to play the best team in the 3A Western Foothills. And South Iredell takes on Hickory Ridge. We're heading to our first commercial break of the day. We're going to continue covering the Daytona 500 as we are just past the halfway mark in the race. Stay tuned for all your live updates on the Daytona 500 right here to the scoreboard. Going to our first break of the day, as is the race actually in a break right now. So it's perfect timing.
Fox and commercial.
Absolutely. Perfect time to say hello to our wonderful sponsors who keep us on air. Stay tuned. You're listening to the scoreboard, and we are back right after this.
Sports, right? There's more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg on the way on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, we're going to stay dry and we're going to stay warm for a while. Temperatures do get chilly tonight, though, under a clear skies. We dip down into the mid-30s on our way to 60 as we go into our Tuesday, and staying dry through the middle of the work week, getting a little warmer, too, into the mid-60s. Our next rain chance, not until we get toward Thursday night and into Friday, but it looks like we'll stay warm on into the upcoming weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. MuralFest is back, April 25th through the 28th at Wilkes Community College, featuring nearly 100 performers, including Old Crow Medicine Show, Turnpike Troubadours, the Teskey Brothers, Nickel Creek, and more. Tickets and information at muralfest.org. Listen each morning to Good Morning LKN for your chance to win tickets. Downtown Mooresville's Shamrocks and Shenanigans is on its way. St. Patty's Day is right around the corner. The festival is happening in downtown Mooresville. Attendance is free, but there are ticket packages available for purchase. Irish dancers, pipe bands, food and drinks. March 16th, downtown Mooresville. Shamrocks and Shenanigans is on its way. For more info, visit downtownmooresville.com. Want to attend the Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show? Throughout the day, you have your chance to win tickets. Listen to Good Morning LKN, the Home Ad Show, the News Drive at 5, and the Scoreboard. Each gives you your chance to win. The Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show, February 23rd through the 25th. Want to see a Tyrannosaurus Rex? How about a Triceratops? Dinosaur World Live is coming to Kane Center for the Arts Friday, March 29th. That's not the only fun family adventure coming to Kane Center for the Arts. Dinosaur World Live, Friday, March 29th. For tickets and to see the entire spring lineup, visit canearts.org. That's CAINarts.org. Have an event you would like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
Got a Toyota? Get it serviced at Quality Car Care of Statesville. Looking for a great pre-owned vehicle? Quality Car Care has you covered at 2040 Old Mountain Road. Visit qualitycarcarestatesville.com.
Breaking news, expert analysis, and the stories that matter most, all in one place.
I totally acknowledge seeing flames is a scary situation.
WSIC News Talk Now.
The Scoreboard with Joe Berg continues now on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Back here on the Scoreboard, a special episode for you today as we are talking about the Daytona 500 as the Daytona 500 is going on. And man, as we come back from break, there was a lot going on. Cars coming down for their green flag pit stops. We got people spun out on pit road. Other people crooked in their stalls. Cars stalling out on pit road. You know, one thing I've noticed so far, actually, is there have been quite a few. I think that's the fourth car that I've seen stall out on pit road today. I wonder if that's going to be an issue this year.
It could be. It could be just first race jitters as well. We just saw, bring our audience up to speed, Bubba Wallace had trouble getting out of his pit stall during that green flag pit stop. Josh Berry was the one that spun around. They refueled that car backwards. They got him back out, but he just went a lap down to the lead pack. So you see that, the stalling, even when cars leave on a qualifying lap or getting off of the grid, that you see that stalling that you don't always see the rest of the year. A lot of that's just winter rust on these drivers. There's no testing anymore like there was back in the day. So this is the first, it's just February, I think, first race rust on these drivers' feet and hands.
Well, not only that a back in the day thing for testing, but even as little as, 5 years ago, you at least had the shootout to get warmed up for Daytona.
Practice.
You had practice
We had
sessions.
no practice.
There's no
These cars hit
practice anymore.
Last Wednesday night, these cars hit the track for time trials, no practice. And then when they took the green for the duels on Thursday, the only times the cars were on the tracks were the 2 laps of qualifying on Wednesday night. So a lot of this, drivers would work that out during the practice. When I was on teams, we would go down about Thursday the week before, and we're down there 10 days. So we were on track Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Speaking of you being down there, why don't we at least let the audience know why I have you specifically here and what maybe your qualifications to talk Daytona with me are. So go ahead, take it over.
Because I was hosting the news drive at 5 and had nothing else to do.
That's a switch right there from news to sports to Daytona.
Let's hop on the Daytona 500. This is about the only sport I am qualified to say anything on a microphone on, though. Before my career in radio, had a career in NASCAR as a crew guy, was one of the grassroots pit crew guys on short track racing as it came up through my high school days, where you go to school or then you get a job and then you start working on your car at 5 p.m. and you go race it on the weekends. I relocated here to the Charlotte area, much like a country music singer would move to Nashville. You come to Charlotte if you want to be part of the action. And then I knocked on doors until some lucky team hired me. And then I was a mechanic, tire changer, tire carrier. I've done a lot of fabrication work as well, worked on several teams. Michael Waltrip Racing, worked for Kenny Wallace, worked at Team Red Bull, that you might remember, who was managed by Gunther Steiner, who is the Formula One manager, was a Formula One manager for Stuart Haas, or for Haas Racing for Haas F1. Germain Racing in what was then known as the Nationwide Series, but is now the Xfinity Series. Worked for Kenny Wallace, Mike Wallace, Michael Waltrip, several teams, because we all do it's a very volatile industry. But before I got into radio, that's what I did. Hence, I look at the cars and have a little bit of knowledge and experience on what's going on the track, and thought I might contribute to the scoreboard this evening.
Well, I'm very happy to have you.
I'm thrilled. We've been talking to doing this since in January, so let's do some racing talk.
I think both of us had a kind of an internal countdown timer as to when we were finally going to get to Daytona, so we could sit down together and lucky for us, I guess unlucky for others, we get to do this on a Monday night.
Live. We planned, just so the audience know, we had talked about this, and we had planned to do a Monday evening recap of the 500, and here we are. It is live while the scoreboard is on right now. It was just too good of an opportunity to pass up that we could talk about the race as it happens. Question for you, Joe. Have you broadcast the scoreboard simultaneously while a major sporting event is happening at the same time you're on the air?
Not major sporting event, unless you consider high school football to be major, and some may consider it to be.
Yeah.
It is an opinion, but the only other time there has been a live, we need to update this as it's happening while I'm on air, was when I was at South Iredell High School, doing a broadcast right before the South Iredell Lake Norman game from last season. Mm-hmm. So we were right there. Kickoff happened at 6:30, and I was still on the air.
Sure.
So it was weird to have a live event in front of me that I couldn't do play-by-play for as I'm broadcasting on the air. So, yeah, it kind of worked out. There was a little bit of a oh, wait, he ended up actually just saying what's going on the field. But, this is the first time we've gotten to sit down and talk about a major event while it's happening.
The only thing I could think of, it wouldn't have coincided with the scoreboard time frame, would be the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship, always on a Monday night. But tip-off is after 9 o'clock on the East Coast time, so it wouldn't clash directly with the scoreboard. Give our audience a little bit of an update. We talked about Josh Berry being turned around in the pits. We caught a replay of that a few seconds ago, and it was John Hunter Nemechek's right front caught Berry in the left rear and turned him around up here. No crew members hurt, no hurt, nothing looks hurt real bad, but just turned around.
Just a little incident, if you will. And not the first one for John Hunter, as he actually was the one who was on the receiving end of a bad push or just a mistimed push that caused that accident on lap 5. Brad Keselowski got into his back bumper. It turned him down the track a little bit, right into Harrison Burton, and poor Carson Hocevar also had nowhere to go.
The front bumper off of Keselowski also was the cause of the pileup in the dual race on Thursday. Was a bad push. Brad Keselowski got into the back of Kyle Busch then. So
almost
this is the second
in the
bad
exact
push.
same spot too, right in the tri-oval. And we heard if you listen to the interview from Kyle Busch after the duel, he said, I learned early in my career, do not push in the tri-oval if you're getting to someone, Keselowski was getting to someone, and Busch had to lift, and Keselowski didn't, and chain reaction, pushing the tri-oval gets a big wreck, and that's exactly what we saw here on lap 5.
Yeah, it's a shame that it happened so early, but at the same time, I completely understand the skill level these guys have and what it takes to be out there at all. So I don't mind calling or analyzing a crash as to what happened, but no judgment or criticism of anybody. But fact is, off of Brad Keselowski's pushes to his front bumper, once on Thursday and once today, there have been a couple of pileups because off his front bumper on a push.
I wonder how much a driver thinks about that in the moment. Especially Brad Keselowski, who part of the incident on Thursday, part of the incident earlier today. Does that linger in the back of a driver's mind?
I don't think it does linger. I think they are focused on what's there right now. Keselowski is a champion in this sport. He's got a lot of laps, a lot of years behind him and experience to draw from. So when he's in the moment, his foot's down and he's thinking about this corner, this lap, what's going on, anything from the past several years, several days. No, that's not in his hand. He's a professional. He's focused on it. Give the audience a little bit of an
update.
Yeah, a little bit of an update.
We got 9 to go now as they cross the line in stage number 2.
In stage 2. Right.
2x2, a little bit of 3x3. We got Kyle Busch and Austin Cindric currently leading the 2 lines up front. And a little bit different here. How often do we see them 2x2 with one lane against the wall and one running the middle? Usually it's low in middle, but it's a little interesting. Maybe something to do with the cars.
It could be. I'm thinking back in 2013, the first 180 laps were it was like a parade, and the action was all in the last 20. Jimmy Johnson won that year for his second 500, but the line was up against the wall all day. And earlier in this race, we saw the low line in the middle line, would be in the middle, and every time a third line formed, it was popped up on the top side of the racetrack. That's where it is formed all day. Right now, there's 2 lines, no 3-wide racing, which is fine by me. 2 line, but it's up against the wall, and the middle line is what we see as Austin Cindric edges out in front. But yeah, we're coming up on the end of a stage, 8 to go in stage 2. So we've seen this in years past, and even earlier today, they get to pushing and shoving a little bit, and I don't want to see that. I want to see a good, clean race. But
that's the state of super speedway racing now. Is you gotta push to make time, and I've been watching the 500 here today, and the only thing that I've noticed is, if you want to make time and keep your line up front, those first 2 cars better be bumper to bumper down the straightaway, especially the backstretch. Keep up with the other lane and keep yourself up front.
Keselowski's pushing. You saw off his front bumper where these crashes happened, but there's no way to not push. All these guys that are fast, are contending for the win, contending for the lead right now, they're all bumper to bumper slamming into each other down the straightaways. It makes sense. Tri-oval and corners, you got to back off. You got to get off that guy. But down the straightaway, they are using each other up on these front bumpers. And we're watching these 2 rows of cars. Leaders are literally inches apart, door to door. Who would lead at the line to score this lap? It's anybody's guess, but Kyle Busch and Austin Cindric side by side.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tight one. It's probably gonna be like this for a majority of the show. So coming up on our next commercial break here, when we return, most likely we will have a winner for stage number 2. We'll bring that to you when we come back on the other side of the break. Stay with us for all your Daytona 500 updates as it is currently underway during the scoreboard. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We are back after this.
More of Sports Director Joe Berg's The Scoreboard is coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, we're going to stay dry and we're going to stay warm for a while. Temperatures do get chilly tonight, though, under a clear sky as we dip down into the mid-30s. On our way to 60 as we go into our Tuesday, and staying dry through the middle of the work week, getting a little warmer, too, into the mid-60s. Our next rain chance, not until we get toward Thursday night and into Friday, but it looks like we'll stay warm on into the upcoming weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Little Shavers Wood Shop and Building Supply is your one-stop source for winter electric and torpedo heaters, heat lamps, pine and cedar shavings, ice melt, and snow sleds. Plus, year-round items including PPG paints and stains, tools for plumbing and heating, and automotive supplies. Over 55,000 warehouse products available. You'll find Little Shavers on Facebook and online at littleshavers.com. That's LILshavers.com.
Okay, I'm talking funny because I'm in the witness protection program. I have too much credit card debt and I don't want people to find me.
Okay, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about credit card debt. Right, those plastic things that we all have in our wallet. Are you in your 50s or 60s and you're still carrying around a mound of credit card debt? Wouldn't it be nice to start banking that money and save a little money for retirement down the road? We help people restructure their credit card debt all the time. We show people how they can get out of credit card debt in months, not years. Listen, you'll be carrying around credit card debt for the rest of your life unless you deal with it right now. We offer a free consultation so you can learn how you can finally wipe out your credit card debt and start saving money. Give us a free call right now.
Call Debt Solutions Network now. 866-451-3328. 866-451-3328. That's 866-451-3328.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-869-8560. 800-869-8560. 800-869-8560. That's 800-869-8560.
President Biden recently released a massive $6 trillion budget, the largest budget in U.S. history. And guess who pays the bill? That's right, you, the American taxpayer. American citizens and business owners will be paying more taxes. That's a fact. And if you owe back taxes, they will be coming after you to collect payments. In fact, President Biden also hired thousands more IRS agents to go after you. If you got a letter from the IRS and you know you owe back taxes or you haven't filed in years, don't put your head in the sand. Call us today. We've saved our customers millions of tax dollars. One quick, free phone call will show you how we can reduce your past tax bill and save you thousands. Guaranteed, or you pay nothing. Call now.
800-218-6440. 800-218-6440. 800.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Consumer sentiment rose this month for a third month in a row, even though a new read on inflation at the wholesale level was hotter than forecast in January. Prices paid to producers at the core level rose more than expected last month, up 0.5% month over month and nearly 1% year over year. Core prices strip out food and energy, the Fed's preferred method of looking at numbers. Meanwhile, a separate report shows groundbreakings of new homes plummeted last month, with housing starts falling nearly 15%. Economists were expecting no change. Meanwhile, building permits, a sign of future activity, slipped a bit when a slight increase was expected. Nike says it's cutting its global workforce by 2%. That could translate to around 1,600 jobs. The sportswear company's been pushing to reduce costs to counter a weaker sales outlook and more competition. A memo said the cuts will happen in 2 phases. Stocks finished the week lower on Wall Street. The Dow fell 145 points. The Nasdaq lost 131. The S&P lost 24. Erica Herskowitz, Bloomberg Radio.
The Scoreboard with Joe Berg continues now on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
and we are back here on the scoreboard on this Monday, Daytona Monday, if you will, as the 500 was rained out on Sunday, going on live as we speak to you here on the scoreboard. And an update coming out of this commercial break. Stage number 2 has been completed. Ryan Blaney gets it done and takes the stage after a very good move in 3 and 4 to get him out front. Your top 5 in stage number 2, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Daniel Suarez, Kyle Busch, and they took it away as I was reading it, and they brought up P17. Did you happen to see it, Patrick?
I was like you. I was watching. I was reading down the rundown, and then we jumped to outside the top 10. So Tyler Reddick.
It's a good time to segue into one topic we can talk about.
Tyler Reddick was 5th.
Tyler Reddick that is your pick
My
for
pick.
the 500. The scroll for NASCAR used to be on the top,
Right.
scroll through everyone.
Right.
Now it's on the left side, always showing the top 10.
Yep.
Is there a better way to do this?
I like the original scroll.
You do?
Yeah, on the left now is what they call a pylon.
Yeah.
And the scroll ran across the top. I prefer that. It took up less of the screen. I don't need that there all the time. I'm an old school fan, so I was watching before this technology was there. I'm okay with it. I like the updates, the full field rundowns, but it just would scroll across the top, and I'm okay with waiting a moment or two till it came around again. I don't need that entire field broadcast there all the time. Prefer the scroll to the pylon.
I do like the scroll myself, but hey, that's what we have now. Anyway, as I said, stage 2 is complete while the caution and stage break are playing out. Let's get to a couple of stories from around the world of sports that happened over the weekend, starting with college basketball. And there was a big game over the weekend that ended in a very big upset. The number 2 team in the country, Purdue, fell to Ohio State, and this was a big one. Ohio State 15-11 on the year, but 5-10 in the Big Ten, that being the biggest upset over the weekend. It didn't shake up the rankings all that much, which I found to be surprising, as Purdue only dropped 1 spot to Houston. So now we'll go through your top 10, as there was quite a bit of movement in your college basketball rankings. UConn still the number 1 team, but everybody behind them moved around a little bit. Houston now number 2. Purdue drops to 3. Arizona moves up a spot to 4. Tennessee rounds out your top 5. Then we have Iowa State, Marquette, Duke, Kansas, and North Carolina round out the top 10. And there were some other games that went on over the weekend as well. A couple of big ones on Saturday, including the, at the time, 4-ranked team Marquette taking on the first-ranked school, UConn. 81-54, the final score for UConn on that one, with Marquette not putting up much of a fight at all in that one. Another upset that took place, LSU was able to squeak by South Carolina with a missed game winner on South Carolina's side, 64-63, the final score in that one. That loss, coupled with the other loss earlier in the week to Auburn, dropped South Carolina all the way down to the 20th ranked team in the country. Turning our attention back to Daytona, coming in for pit stops. We talked a little bit about this earlier, Patrick, with some guys coming in to top off. Mm-hmm. The plate tracks, if you will, even though there is no plate anymore, have really turned into this fuel-saving mode where if you're running in the pack, you need to save fuel 24/7. Why do you think it's gotten this way?
You look at the history of the track and you try to predict what this race will be out of trends. They went to the new car a year or two ago, and there's different aspects to it. You know, the fuel injection change, we had carburetor change like 10 years ago. There was a lot of things to it. So you try to predict how the race will go, and several of them have been fuel mileage races, just because any race can be a fuel mileage race. It depends on when the lost caution flag flies. So as a crew chief, you would look at the past 5 years, 10 years, something like that, and try to predict, okay, this race will probably here's our last caution flag. They go through that aspect. And if there's enough years where it's been a fuel mileage race, comes down, they're prepared for that. And it's just in case. And they look at how many laps are left in the race and what their fuel window is. And you go from 200 and you back up where our last pit stop needs to be here on this lap, and we can go the rest of the way on fuel. However, there's that wild card of extended, the overtimes, a green, white, checkered, which are so typical of these fuel mileage races. So people are putting themselves in position right from the initial green flag of fuel mileage and running their mileage backwards. Now, they're constantly pivoting and improvising, as these crew chiefs do during the race, depending on when cautions fall, how they're working in the draft, who around them is towing them, who around them they can push, things like that. They're constantly lap by lap adjusting it, but they're playing a fuel mileage game right from the initial green flag and counting down backwards in this race, and they know how many laps they have on a tank of fuel, and they're looking at when their last stop will be, gambling sometimes on that overtime.
Yeah, and an overtime is such a wild card because we can have as many as 3.
And and you don't know, you could have 3, but you've also got the caution laps during whatever the wreck is. And we used to, I don't know, I've been out of a shop for a while, but 2 laps of yellow, which is equal to 1 lap of green as far as fuel went. And that's how we would calculate it. And how are we going to end on lap 200? Are we going to end on lap 205, 210? It's tough to say, but you've got to be prepared. We've seen that happen. The gamble, the dice roll. If we go to 200, we're good. If we go any further, and some guys are running back there in 15th, and suddenly after 210 laps or overtime, they're contending for the win. It makes it exciting.
Yeah, and even fuel mileage 500s make it exciting. I remember a few years ago when Kurt Busch won the 500 in the 41 car.
Yes.
There were people running out of fuel, 2 to go, 3 to go.
Yes, there were.
White flag lap. As, man, we've come back from the commercial break here on the broadcast, and it looks like there's a problem with my pick to win the Daytona 500. Kyle Busch, what happened?
We are looking at sparks coming from the left front of Kyle Busch. The field is still under caution, so we're not sure he's coming back. Looks like he's running slow and coming back to pit road with left front sparks coming out. We are not sure. The Fox telecast is trying to diagnose their last pit stop and see what the problem was.
It looks like the tire wasn't on.
Could be.
You got people running after him.
Yeah, it's his crew guys were frantic on that left front, which is where the trouble is. So as soon as we know, we will let you know. He's back on pit road. They're working on it. Left front is back on. So we'll
top it off and get him back out there.
Get him back out there, yeah.
Good thing about Daytona, a problem in the pits like that, not too detrimental because you can work your way. It is much harder in these cars to work your way to the front, but it is possible to go from the back to the front, even with a problem on pit road. If this was under green, though, completely different story, and your 500 might be over.
And a different track, too. This is, as we call it, the super speedway drafting plate tracks. So to put him back in, say, 30th or 20th, he can come to the front, whereas we are looking at 65 laps to go. If you were, say, at Texas and you're 30th, you've got to have some kind of a Hail Mary to get to the front.
Martinsville and you're 30th, you are in trouble because 5 laps from the green flag, leader's half a track behind you.
It's not happening. You can't do it, but it is possible at these drafting super speedways.
As we come back around for the green flag in the final stage of the race, we see a lot of cars come to top off, just as we were talking about with the fuel mileage. 65 to go, though. This feels like more of a top off to just make sure that final stop, if it stays green, is as short as possible because there's no way you can stretch it 65 laps.
No, you're not going to go that far on a tank of fuel, but something else that they're thinking of, you're right. We'll pick it up after the break.
We're going to commercial break. We'll be back right after this.
More of Sports Director Joe Berg's The Scoreboard is coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, we're going to stay dry and we're going to stay warm for a while. Temperatures do get chilly tonight, though, under a clear skies. We dip down into the mid-30s on our way to 60 as we go into our Tuesday, and staying dry through the middle of the work week, getting a little warmer, too. into the mid-60s. Our next rain chance, not until we get toward Thursday night and into Friday, but it looks like we'll stay warm on into the upcoming weekend. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Merlefest is back, April 25th through the 28th at Wilkes Community College, featuring nearly 100 performers, including Old Crow Medicine Show, Turnpike Troubadours, the Teskey Brothers, Nickel Creek, and more. Tickets and information at merlefest.org. Listen each morning to Good Morning LKN for your chance to win tickets. Downtown Mooresville's Shamrocks and Shenanigans is on its way. St. Patty's Day is right around the corner. The festival is happening in downtown Mooresville. Attendance is free, but there are ticket packages available for purchase. Irish dancers, pipe bands, food and drinks. March 16th, downtown Mooresville. Shamrocks and Shenanigans is on its way. For more info, visit downtownmooresville.com. Want to attend the Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show? Throughout the day, you have your chance to win tickets. Listen to Good Morning LKN, the Home Ad Show, the News Drive at 5, and the Scoreboard. Each gives you your chance to win the Charlotte Home and Remodeling Show, February 23rd through the 25th. Want to see a Tyrannosaurus Rex? How about a Triceratops? Dinosaur World Live is coming to Kane Center for the Arts Friday, March 29th. That's not the only fun family adventure coming to Kane Center for the Arts. Dinosaur World Live, Friday, March 29th. For tickets and to see the entire spring lineup, visit canearts.org. That's CAINarts.org. Have an event you would like to tell people about? Yard sales, estate sales, and everything in between? Visit WSICnews.com and click on events to submit your event today.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
Thought-provoking conversations and informed perspectives.
It's meant for everyday people to understand, and you don't have to stress about technical terms and stuff. They just say it like a real person.
WSIC News Talk Now.
It's the Scoreboard with your host, Sports Director Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
We are back here on the Scoreboard. Final segment on this Monday, Daytona 500 Monday, if you will. And boy, Patrick, it's go time, it seems. 61 laps to go, 3 by 3 by 3 by 3, all the way through the field. It's time to go win the Daytona 500.
61 laps to go. I give you the rundown, but the positions are just swapping back and forth.
There's no way to run it down.
It's as we stamp right now. I was about to call it, and it's changed so much in the last half a lap. To stamp it, sure, we got 61 laps to go, and A.J. Allmendinger is your leader. Chris Buescher is second. Martin Truex Jr. is third. Tyler Reddick fourth. Bubba Wallace fifth. Wallace was leading a lap ago. Corey LaJoie is making a move. He's up to sixth, charging for the top five. Austin Cindric seventh. Daniel Hemrick 8th, Christopher Bell 9th, and Ryan Blaney, last year's champ, currently holds the 10th position. But that has all changed quicker than I could run through the top 10. They are 3 by 3. It looks like an Indy 500 start pace lap, and everybody's just got it flat on the ground.
We'll put it this way. We got 3 lines by all even going into turn 3. Allmendinger, Reddick, and Buescher are the ones leading those lines from bottom to top. It's going to sort itself out before the end of this thing, but I think we are overdue for a pileup.
Sadly, yes. When cars race like this, it's usually just a matter of time, and it doesn't take much. These cars are so close and so fast, guys can miscalculate by an inch less, and disaster can strike. We have not seen that to a huge degree. We had about a half dozen cars wreck out on lap 5 of this race, but it has been pretty smooth since. I think the only cautions we've had since that wreck have been stage breaks. Yes. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, not even a debris caution, which we all know NASCAR loves their debris caution.
Not since they put in the stages, because that eliminated
that
their
takes
mystery
care of
debris
it
cautions.
for them. But
yes.
Anyway, we're still 3 by 3 by 3.
Yep.
They're all over the place. They're pushing and shoving. Do you know, since you worked so closely with Cup Series drivers and crews, do you know what about Daytona Turn 4 makes it so treacherous?
A little bit, yeah. There is a tunnel that goes through Turn 4 for vehicles and pedestrians, and there is a little bit of a hump literally on the banking as the cars go through Turn 4. There's a little bit of a bump from that tunnel that goes through there. In 1984, it was infamously nicknamed Calamity Corner for the series during Speed Week, that it collected so many cars off of that. Some guys just get the feel for it, and they know that tunnel's there, and it just impacts. The Speedway was paved prior to the 2011 Daytona 500, and it was smooth as glass, and just over the years that settled. Before 2011, it was, I think, 78 or 79 it was paved, and the pavement settles. It does just on the roads here in Iredell County, where we are, Mecklenburg County. It does on a speedway, too. It just gets worn and settled, but that's an issue with it.
And that's what gives all of these tracks their character.
Like,
that could actually segue us into next week's race, Atlanta, which they took all the character out of that track, and now it's just a terrible copy of Daytona.
I'll say, yeah, it was. I remember them in the 1.5-mile oval. It was a true oval before they reconfigured it to a quad oval in 97-ish or so.
I believe.
Can't remember the right date, but I was at Atlanta. I was at the infamous Hooters 500 1992.
Oh, wow.
November 15th. Richard Petty's final Cup race, Jeff Gordon's first Cup race, and Alan Koicke's championship.
Yep.
I've got my ticket stub, my program, and my patch and my coat. I
Best
know they're
race
not for sale.
ever? Best race ever?
Yes.
Okay.
Best race ever in NASCAR history. No, none of them are for sale. I have them.
You're not going to call into the home ad show?
No. They are not for sale. But that was the best configuration, and I will be critical of just the sport in general, is the Cup Series, NASCAR. They've been guilty of trying to fix something that is not broken. Atlanta in the original oval form was not broken. It was a great track. The quad oval produced some great racing, but it produced some duds too. Back and forth. And now you have they try to go back to the original configuration of a true oval, no dog legs in it, and 1.5 miles, and it's got its own characteristics now, but
they
to run
the banking and
a restrictor plate style track.
They use the same setups as Daytona and Talladega.
It's 1.5 miles drafting speedway now.
Do you remember the All-Star race? Oh, man, I don't remember how long ago it was, but it was when NASCAR first started considering trying to get the 1.5 miles tighter with less horsepower and more drafting. We had that All-Star race where it looked like a super speedway out there. They were 4 wide at Charlotte. We'd never seen it before, and that's what they tried to make Atlanta into. I'm afraid that it's going to turn into either we're at a short track, we're at a road course, or we're at a drafting track. I feel like that's what they're going for.
Yeah, they are. I just saw some cars skidding and backy on the screen, but it was a replay, so we were about to call in. Yeah, this is a new style of track that Atlanta is now, that it doesn't really fit in. It's its own, I guess, category where it doesn't really, to me, it doesn't fit in with Talladega and Daytona.
No.
It doesn't fit in with the downforce intermediate tracks. It's not a short track or road course. Atlanta's its own animal now.
Do you like it?
It's okay. I like it better than the double dogleg quad oval.
Really?
Yes, I do. I do.
That was one of my favorite tracks, to be honest with you, especially because of the wear and tear on it and just drivers knowing where to get the grip after a 10-lap run.
When the pavement was worn at Atlanta on the dog legs, that was a great track. If you repave it with new pavement, oh gosh, it was another, single file arrow push type of track, and it was frustrating. When the pavement was worn, That was fantastic. It produced some good races. That configuration produced good races, but not all of them. It was some duds there too.
Well, that's true with every NASCAR track, though. You're not going to have every single year the Food City 500 is not going to be a good race.
No.
Every single year the championship can't be a great race. But it feels like that's what NASCAR's trying to produce.
Yeah, I think that's where they're criticized by manufactured excitement. Brian France said years ago, before or the early stages of the chase in the playoffs format, is we need more Game 7 moments in NASCAR. And if you look at a World Series, a Game 7 moment is so special because it doesn't happen that often.
Rare.
If you had 6 games in the World Series and just said, we're going to artificially manufacture a Game 7, a baseball fan might look at it and go, what are we doing? What am I seeing here for a championship? As a longtime NASCAR fan, that's how I see it with this championship format. We got this 4-way tie, but I look at it and go, what exactly am I watching here? Bring me the Latford system any day.
Yeah. You know, and we've talked about this not on air at all, but we've talked about it off air before. We're in a little bit of a disagreement when it comes to that because I know NASCAR, they want playoffs. They want something to stamp the word playoffs on to be able to market it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Fine. You got me there. You're never going to go away from that. We're never going to get the full 36. Whoever's leading the points is the champion. I would like NASCAR to meet people halfway because I feel like the current format is not popular. But the 2005, 6, 7 range where it was a 10-car, final 10 races, whoever gets the most points in those 10 races is the champion, was the most fair way to do a playoff in NASCAR. But I just don't think they're ever going to go back to that.
I don't think they'll ever go back to anything what they have now. That 16 guys, you can have they're trying to incorporate like a ladder system like you do in a playoffs, like the stick and ball sports, 16, 8, 4, 2, that type of ladder system. To me, it just doesn't work when you have every team racing every event every week, as opposed to a league where 2 teams, one each out of each franchise, are battling around the country. You have divisions and standings. It works with those type of sports, and I don't believe it works with this. The same system that guys could lock up a championship 2 or 3 races before the final event also produced the 1992 Hooters 500, the exact same format, which brings me up to sometimes the World Series. It's 4 a game sweep. Sometimes it's a Game 7. That's sports. I'm in favor of letting it play out.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with you there. But the biggest reason why the ladder format doesn't work is because you're not going one-on-one.
Right.
It's everybody, playoff and non-playoff guys are out there. So it just doesn't work. Well, we're coming into the final minute of the show today. Wow. Final update for you here on the 500. We are coming around to 48 to go, and everybody's favorite driver, Denny Hamlin, has just taken the lead. 48 to go now in the Daytona 500. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to the Scoreboard today. It was a wonderful time talking NASCAR. Thank you, Patrick, for joining me.
Thank you, Joe, for having me. This was
fun. A lot of fun.
Let's do it again.
We definitely will. Maybe we'll do a recap show tomorrow.
Maybe we will.
You know, who knows? Who knows? The final 48 laps of this 500 could be one of the greatest final 48 laps of all time.
A lot can happen.
A lot can happen.
Long way to go still.
Tune in to Fox is where you can watch the race. Otherwise, if you're just tuning in to WSIC, I will have the results for you right here tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in today here on the Scoreboard. We're back tomorrow, same time, same place. But until then, have a good night, everyone.